Hi, this is Steve at Hilltops IT, and in this video I'd like to talk a bit more about QuoteWerks Web AI Assistant, the new feature that's just been introduced into QuoteWerks Web to auto-generate JavaScript to assist with workflow, do validation, and lots of other wonderful things as well. If you've seen the video from yesterday about the HTTP request function, you'll have heard me get a little bit excited about what that might mean for future QuoteWerks developments, whether that be in integrating with Monday.com, Microsoft Business Central, Microsoft CRM, Unleashed, any web-based UI, and the thought that that could change the shape of how we go about developing it, whether it's, like I say, whether it's embedded in QuoteWerks Web itself or a desktop application or another web-based application that we build. I'm thinking that everything may well go through a portal on the ConnectIt-Software.uk website. Like I say, it got me thinking, what else would we need for that? One of those things would be a way to administer settings. So within, I'll just pop up an example. So within any given integration that we do, there's a whole bunch of settings in the background. This is the kind of thing that you set up once and then sort of forget about it, because all the magic is happening in the application itself. But occasionally you do need tweaks to things, additional fields mapping, or that sort of thing. And we've got this concept of a form, the process, whether it's creating a sales order, creating a purchase order, some more on creating a sales order, importing vendors, and the ones that or the one that pretty much is across the board is the QuoteWerks database settings. So how we access the QuoteWerks database, the connection string to that. The first thing that I did was create myself a web service, which was pretty straightforward. This is Postman. If you're not familiar with it, you will have seen it before. And we're hitting our ngrok web service, which is on my local development PC. And based on some parameters, the integration type, the object, I've changed some of the terminology here just so as it's more future-proof. The integration type would be Business Central, it would be Monday.com, it would be ServiceNow. The object would be sales order, purchase order, whatever else we might be creating. The process would be update, create, import, those types of things. So sort of fairly high level details that then get us into these very specific settings. So these are all field mappings of where do we get the sell to country field from? Well, we get it from the sold to country. Where do we get the ship to contact from? Well, that comes from the document header, ship to contact. Yeah, I don't need to explain this anymore. This is the magic that happens in the background. As a user, you don't necessarily need to see this. But anyway, I could create myself a portal for on the ConnectItSoftware.uk website for a user or for me to administrate those details. Or I thought, what about QuoteWerks Web? What about the dynamic forms? These, if you've read about them, these are forms that, oddly enough, you create dynamically. You define what labels you want to put on text boxes. You define what data types they are. You define whether they're required or not. Some of these are optional parameters, some of these are required parameters. Then you can create an initial model which kind of overlays that form with some default settings. So here we've got an example. This is our form definition. We've got all the different keys, the different labels, so name, email address, date of birth. This is all about creating a user. Um, and then below we create this initial model, which is just defaulting the name to John Lou. You could, of course, add email address, date of birth, etc., whatever you wanted to this. Now, I could do this, but there's an awful lot of settings within the configuration, and to load all of them at once would be somewhat overwhelming anyway. But the thought of hand cranking all of this to be able to use QuoteWerks Web as the interface for maintaining these things, it wasn't something that particularly appealed to me. So I thought, what can the AI assistant help me with? Can it shortcut my way of defining all of these fields that are going to go into my form definition? Even better, can it do it dynamically, so I haven't got to know that there's a name, there's an email, there's a date of birth, because this might be a sales order, in which case I've got to worry about a document number, a date, a delivery date, all of those sorts of things. That is where, in my mind, it became overcomplicated. But I turned to the AI assistant. Let's see what it can do for me. So I was quite prescriptive in what I was asking it to do. If you saw yesterday's video, some of this will be familiar. I have a web service at ngrok-free.app, which requires authentication, and a JSON body passed with parameters integration type, object, and process. Those are the values that we just saw coming from our web service. These are the parameters that we're passing in. Okay. The new bit is this should be the web service returns status, message, and an array of key pairs in an object called settings. Now it's those settings, again if we go back to Postman, it's these settings that I want to make up my labels. So edition is on SQL, login, etc. I want those to be the labels that appear on my dynamic form, defaulted to corporate, true, ConnectIt, etc., etc. Going back to QuoteWerks Web again. Okay, so can you write some JavaScript to call this web service and prompt the user with a dynamic form? The dynamic form title should be settings. That's nice and easy. That's just this little bit here. And the fields created from the details on the setting object of what's returned from the web service, where the dynamic form key and label is the key, i.e. these values. That's what I'm trying to tell it. A lot of use of the word key and settings, which can be confusing, but hey, let's see if the AI can work it out for us. Type is text, just to keep it simple for now. There are Boolean fields in there. I wasn't going to worry too much about this, just as a test. The parameters are the values from the web service settings object. So what I mean by the parameters is this initial model that we want to apply to our form when it loads. So let's get rid of that. I'm not going to generate the script because I have made a few tweaks. If we go through the script now, I'll show you what those tweaks were, but they were minimal. I absolutely promise you they were absolutely minimal. So let's just get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. And same as before, yesterday's video, it's setting up the options for how it's going to send that request to our web service. IntegrationType all, object, QWDB. The bits I had to change were my secret API key, the IntegrationType object and process, because I didn't find those. I didn't define those as part of this blurb, and they're pretty easy to change, so that was no huge task for me. Again, as yesterday, it's calling that HTTP request, checking for an error. If there's not an error, then it's assigning the response, the status, the message, the settings. Going back to our Postman call, we've got that status, message, our settings. So it's assigning those to local variables. Again, checking to make sure that the status was a success. And now here's the smart part. So this is where it creates the form. Not that elongated, protracted piece of code that we saw in the example. Just very simple. What have we got? 5-6 lines of code, and that's set up the form for us. Defining it here, the title with those field forms, and this is what we're doing for setting the default. Again, using this JavaScript function to massively simplify how the values are written to the dynamic form. And again, to reuse the word dynamic, all of this is dynamic. It wouldn't matter whether the only thing that would change would be the parameters that I'm sending here. You know, it could be IntegrationType MSBC, sales order, create, whatever, and it would return those. And then it would also make the keys, make the labels suit that as well. We are then prompting the user with that form. So, with that said, let's see it in action. And that came back a lot quicker than I expected, which isn't a bad thing. And there you can see for yourself, you know, aside from the fact that, yeah, I'd like to see it on a grid rather than sort of label and caption. And yeah, I'd like to tweak the order of some of these things because they're not quite in my head's logical order. But we can do some stuff about that, or we can do stuff about the order. We can't necessarily do some stuff about it appearing on a grid rather than like this. But hey, nod to development team, just a thought for you. Okay. So yeah, needless to say, this is going to be a huge time saving for me. You know, all I need to do is just modify these parameters for different things to bring those settings through. I do need to do some work on actually returning the values to the database, but given how far this has come in an hour, maybe I spent on this. The web service took about an hour doing this AI assistant and making a few tweaks. That took an hour as well. I did promise to point out some other things. Yeah, within this settings, originally it's saying setting.key, which wasn't correct, but again, for the amount that it has done and understanding the web service and how this is working, it was a very straightforward fix. What I think I'm most excited about now is finding a project where we can actually trial this stuff out, actually implement it for real. It's all very well talking about it and demoing it in principle, but yeah, what I really want is for somebody to come along and work with us on this to build like I mentioned before, start the next generation of ConnectIt Software integrations. You can get in touch with me through the ConnectIt-software.uk website. Contact us. There's an email address there, inquiries at. You can give me a ring. There's functions here to chat with me on Talk To, or you can send me a message. Whatever means you would like to get in touch, please do so. And I look forward to perhaps working with you soon.